Hi, everyone, and welcome to our event today, Digital Book Tracking with Notion. We're so excited to share this with you, and feel free to type into the chat as we go over the introduction. Where are you from? How long have you been using Notion? And feel free to introduce yourself. So let's get started with today's event itinerary. So we'll be going over an introduction, and then we'll talk about how to read more and why Notion to track reading. And then we'll be building a book tracker and reading journal together. And then after that, we'll be having a Q&A session, and then we'll show you how to download the free template, which we built together today. So let's dive right into the introduction. So first, who we are. We specialize in designing Notion templates that help you optimize workflow, organize data, and increase productivity. Be sure to check out our website and template store. We have a lot of freebies and free resources for beginners to get started with Notion. And we're basically run by two passionate Notion creators. My name is Sarah, and Anne will be managing the chat today. And a few notes about the event. Add your comments and questions into the chat. Please keep the conversation respectful and about the event. And just a friendly reminder, this chat is for discussing about this event and Notion related topics. Messages not related to these will be moderated and removed if needed. So because there is a bit of a lag between YouTube Live and the actual stream, if you have any questions, we'll mainly be answering that at the very end of this session during the Q&A, but Anne will be keeping track of all the questions, so we'll be able to answer them for you at the end. So let's get started. So first, let's discuss about how to read more. And we feel like reading is something that we always kind of talk about that we want to do more of, but it's a bit hard to keep as a habit oftentimes with so many distractions. So first, feel free to type into the chat. Do you have any tips or tricks to read more? Feel free to share about it. And we also have a few resources about how to read more, and we'll be putting that also into the chat. So first tip is to stick with a simple reading habit. So it's really important to set small and specific habits so that it's easy and fun to accomplish. And this kind of applies to all sorts of habits, but with reading especially, just keeping it short can really make a difference to start having a habit. So make sure to consider these factors, the number of pages you can read per day, and don't hesitate to start small. Even 1 page, 5 pages, 10 pages, or 20 pages can already be a really good start. Also, the time when you can spend time reading. So often reading is a really good activity to do before bed because then you can minimize screen time. So just building it into your daily routine can really help with that. And then also the place where you can focus on reading can be a really big game changer for keeping a reading habit. So forming reading habits is different from setting reading goals. So try to think of it more like a habit, kind of like brushing your teeth, rather than setting reading goals like I want to read 50 books or something like that. So the next thing is to make a list of books you want to read. So simply making a list of want to read books can be motivating. Think about why and want to read them and what attracts you to them. And find some books in genres that you don't usually read as well so you can kind of get out of your rut. And also keep in mind that it can be exciting to make a list, but make sure it's not too long so that you'll get overwhelmed by your book list. So this is very different from the reading habit. So simply making a list and just thinking about what kinds of books you might want to read can be very exciting, but it doesn't mean that you have to keep up with your list. So we really recommend habit setting rather than sort of setting how many books you're trying to read. So don't feel pressured to finish a book you don't enjoy. If you don't enjoy reading a particular book, it's okay to stop reading it. Stay with the book that you enjoy. We often have the idea that we need to read a certain book because everyone is reading it or it's a bestseller, but we're all different. So some books might be less relatable to you, and it's totally fine to just stop reading and not feel bad about it. The other thing is you can try using a book journal. So, journaling about the books you read can keep you more connected to your reading material. And if you enjoy writing, this can also put your two hobbies together. So, you can think about some writing prompts that you can answer about the book as you read it. And this also allows you to reflect on the book more and have a more meaningful relationship with reading. So, we highly recommend journaling as well with your book reading. So, next, we wanted to discuss why Notion in particular for tracking reading. And have you tried Notion to track your reading? So, we'd love to hear how that went. So, do you use a template for reading, or what other tools do you use if you don't use Notion, for example? So, here are some reasons why Notion is a really good reading tracker tool. So, you can customize the visualization to fit your personality. You can keep book reviews and book reflections more private and unbiased compared to the reviews posted by online peers out there. So there is a lot of reading community on the internet, but oftentimes that's also going to influence how you feel about the book. So if you wanted to keep everything sort of private and separate from that kind of other people's reviews and so on, having a book tracker inside Notion can be a really great way to do that, but you can also share it with other people. So that's another really great thing about Notion, is that it can be private, but you can also share it to the internet and share it with other people who might be interested in your thoughts about the book, for example. So, what can be included in your tracker? So, with Notion, it's very, very customizable. So, we think that it's one of the best use cases for Notion in general. And it's actually one of the first templates that we built when we first started the Organized Notebook, because you can put your favorite book in quote, you can add your reading goals, you can add resources about reading in general. Then you can keep a reading dashboard. You can track all of your book genres in one place, and then have your books as part of your genres and sort of look at them in different filtered views. You can set customized statuses. So there's really a lot you can do with it. And it can be really fun to build a reading tracker as well with Notion and really customize it to your own preference. So let's move to the next section where we're going to be building together. If you already have Notion open, you're very welcome to join us as we do this step by step. And basically, what we're going to be building today is going to be something that looks like this. It's relatively simple, but you can also customize it later once you have the basic framework. And what it includes is a section where you can view by genre. So you can click it open and then see, for example, how many books are inside of the memoir genre. And we'll also be building a database template inside. So when you have that open, you can simply click plus the new genre inside here. And then you can see exactly what books are inside of there. Then you can see your book all here in gallery view, including reading now, want to read, and complete. We also added a pause section in case you want to pause your reading in the middle. And your book also includes a reading progress bar, your date, start, and end time. And if you open it up, you can see your bookmark, your rating, publication date, URL, as well as a database template inside, which has summary, favorite quotes, and here you can keep a flexible reading journal inside of the book. And yeah, that's basically it. So it's consisting of two databases that are related to each other, and it's a really great start to making a book tracker and reading journal inside Notion, and it can be as small or as big as you want it to be. So let's get started with building it. So first we're going to start with an empty Notion page, and we've already done this already, but if you haven't, make sure to turn on small text full width. And we like to do this because it allows us to have more space on the page. And here you can even change the font if you don't like the default. It can be serif or mono. And we can just start with this empty page. So we're going to first change the title to Book Library and Reading Tracker. And we can change the icon here to something that resembles more of a book, such as this one, a bookmark. And the first thing we're going to be doing is to build the databases. So this is how we recommend you to approach template creation and also your personal pages, is always to build your databases first and make sure that you have all the views you want inside there first. So we're gonna do /callout, and we'll be placing the databases inside of the callout box. And this really ensures that you don't lose your databases, and without the databases, the template could kind of malfunction or stop working. So it's really important to know where your databases are located. And you can choose an icon for this here, and it's already chosen this one for us, so we're just going to keep this one. And let's go ahead and type databases, and we can bold this. And we also like to add do not delete, so it's very clear not to delete it. So underneath here, we're going to be adding the databases, and the first database we're going to be creating is our book database. So for that, we're going to type /page and click open page. And here we're going to call this book or books. And we can add an icon here that resembles a book like this. And the type of database we're going to be starting with is just going to be a table view. And then later we're going to also add gallery view. So you can go to plus new database. And just to make this clear for us, we're going to be naming this event because we have a lot of book databases already inside our workspace, so it can get confusing when we do relations. So make sure to name it something that you know you can find. And we'll add an icon here like this. And now we can get started with our main database for our books. So this is going to be renamed as table view. And here we can start putting the names of our books that we're going to be adding to this. So it's really good to put a few examples inside so you can really see how it's going to end up looking like. So in this case, first we'll put one of our favorite books called Atomic Habits. And if you haven't read that already, we highly recommend it. It's a really good book. So Atomic Habits. And once we have the title, the next thing we want to add would be the author. So we're going to delete this property and instead add a multi-select, clicking multi-select, and we're going to name this author. And you can go ahead and change the icon here into a person like this. And then actually instead of multi-select, we're going to go with select. So the difference between multi-select and select is that select only allows you to put one author, and multi-select allows you to add multiple people. But in this case, we're only adding authors that only have one option. So we're just going to put one. And this is by James Clear. So we're going to create James Clear. And the next thing we're going to be adding here is the publication date. So if you have Notion AI, it also likes to recommend things that you can add to your databases based on the title. So in this case, this is a really good idea. But we're going to go ahead and choose a date property and name this publication date. And after publication date, what we can add is a number property. And this is going to be showing us the total pages. So this is how we're going to add a bookmark. And after total pages, we can add our bookmark. So we can click plus, number, and this one is going to be our bookmark. And we can put an icon here that matches a bookmark like this and move it forward before total pages. And then what we can add is the start and end date for when you started reading. So we can put another date property. And this one is going to be called date start end. And we have the date start and end. And one of the most important ones is also going to be status. So what is your reading status? So instead of not started, here you can edit the name when you choose a status property. And we're going to call this want to read. And instead of in progress, we're going to rename this one reading now. And done makes sense, so we're just going to keep that. But in case that you don't finish a book, we can also put one that's called paused. Like this, and you can choose the color, and we'll choose red. So now we can see the status. And for this Atomic Habits, we're going to set the status as done. And we're going to start filling in the information. So for the publication date, this one was written in, let's see, October 16th, 2018. So we're going to put October 16th, 2018, like this. Oh. Like this, and the number of pages, let's say that this has 300 pages, and since we completed this one, we're just going to pretend we put the bookmark here, 300, and we can also put a start and end date. So let's say that we read this in September and it took us a month to read, so it would look something like this. So then the next thing we're going to be adding is a formula that's going to be showing us the reading progress. So we're going to click the plus sign here and look for formula. And we're going to name this reading progress. And you can go ahead and change the icon here to something that's more like a graph. And we're going to edit the formula. So this is one of the simplest formulas you can add to Notion. And basically it's going to do a division. So we're going to take the bookmark property and divide that by the total pages. And one thing that we recommend you to do when you do divisions in formulas is to round them. And because the round formula goes to the nearest integer, we highly recommend you to multiply this by 100 and then put round and then brackets around it and then divide it again by 100. So this is kind of the way to get out of the fact that it rounds to the nearest integer. So in the case of a division, this would make it rounded percentage. So we're going to go done. And we're going to change the number format to percent, and we're going to show a bar like this. So we can even show the reading progress a bit further up. Then the next thing we're going to add is also a rating. So it's really fun to add personal ratings to your Notion. So we're going to be adding that, and this is going to be done with the select property. So we're going to go to select and we are going to add an option. So an easy way to add options is just by opening up the page here. So now we see the select property here, and we can rename this to rating, and we can add a star like this and put it up here. So the way that we like to add ratings is by using emojis. So if you type a colon and then star, you can find the star, and then we can just simply copy this, Control or Command C, and paste it in, and we can create 1 star. And if we paste in 2 stars, we can create 2 stars. So we can make 3 stars, 4 stars, and then 5 stars like this. And if we want to keep them all the same color, you can now just change them all to light gray so that the stars pop up like this. So now we also have our rating here for Atomic Habits. And we can also move around these properties as we need. So everything looks good now. And let's see if there's anything else we can add. We could add a URL as well. So in case that you want to link it to the book or have a link here, you can also add a URL property just in case. And we'll keep that one empty. So this one is basically completely filled in now. And the only thing we haven't done is add a genre relation, which we're going to do later when we build the genre database. So let's go ahead and also fill in the next two rows here. So we're just going to add some books here. So sample books, so The Hobbit, for example, and this is by J.R.R. Tolkien. And let's see here. We can make a new author, and this is nice when you keep them all the same color so that later it displays really nicely. And let's say that this one is one you're reading now, so we'll just put reading now. Publication date is September 21 and 1937. And the total pages is going to be 310. And let's say that we are currently reading it. So we're going to put, for example, the bookmark at 200. So now we see that this is working correctly. So we're 65% done with the reading. And let's say that we started it today and we cannot give a rating yet, so we're not going to rate it. And then the third book we're going to be adding is in the want to read category. So this one is going to be Wild, and it's by Cheryl Stray, like this. And we can again change the color to orange. And the publication date for this one is on March 20th, 2012. So we can put 2012. And then the total number of pages is going to be 336. And we can put 0 as the bookmark since we haven't started yet. And we don't know when we're going to start it, but we could just put some date in the future as well. So now we have all 3 books here. And after table view, the other view we're going to be adding is going to be gallery view. So the one thing that we really like about Notion is that you can really see the book covers using gallery view. So let's go ahead and duplicate this one. And we're going to name this gallery view. And we can change the layout to gallery. So in order to see the nice book covers, we're going to do card preview to page cover. And card size we'll keep to medium, and fit image we're going to toggle on so we can really see the full book. So now if we go back, we can now choose what properties we're going to show. And obviously we want to show the author. We want to show the date that you started and ended. We can show the rating. We can show reading progress, status, and that's about it. So the rest we can just hide until you open it up. So then we can move these around as we want as well. So maybe rating we move all the way to the bottom. And now this looks quite nice. So next we're going to add the covers. So to add the covers, an easy way to do it with books, for example, is simply just to click add cover, change cover, and then add a link. And you can easily get links online for any of the books that you're reading and copy the image address. So if we go to, for example, for Atomic Habits, we can command click or control click and copy image address and paste it in. So we just pasted this in from Goodreads, for example, and now we see it here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for The Hobbit as well. So you can just control click, copy image address, and add cover, change cover, add as link. And the final one can also add cover, change cover, and add the link. So this one we got from Wikipedia, for example, and everything shows up really nicely with the book covers. And we're also going to do one more step inside here, which is just to order it already based on the status, so you can easily see that. So we're going to go to the three dots here, group, and we're going to group it by the status. And we're going to choose the sort to manual. So we want to see the reading now on the top, since that's the one we're reading now, and the done at the bottom, and want to read in between. And we've hid the group, which is for paused, so we don't want to see that. And then we can just click out like this. And this way you can really save space if you don't want to see everything all in one space, but then everything is neatly categorized so you can see what you want to see. So now we have the book database pretty much set up already like this, and we can go back to the main page. So now we see the book database neatly inside here. And the second database we're going to be building today is going to be the genre database. So we can go ahead and click the plus button here to put a space underneath this page and type /page and open it up. So this one is going to be called genres. And we're going to choose for now table view again and plus new database. And let's go ahead and also call this event so we can find it easily later, and add an icon. So we can add something that's about categories, so something like this. And according to our 3 books that we added, the genres that we're going to be adding is going to be memoir, fantasy, and self-improvement. So we're going to delete the tags property that's already included here by clicking delete property. And let's go ahead and fill those in. So the first one's going to be fantasy. The second one is going to be memoir. And the third one is going to be self-development, let's say. And we're also going to be adding a gallery view for this. So we can go ahead and click here and duplicate. And we can call this one gallery view, like this. And layout, we can choose gallery so that we can already start seeing it as gallery. And card preview, we're going to change to page cover. And let's go ahead and choose the icon and cover photos for these so that they're going to show up in the main page. So for fantasy, we're going to choose maybe a wand like this. And let's go ahead and add a cover photo. And if you just want random stock images, we highly recommend Unsplash because you can just search for anything you're looking for. So in this case, we'll look for something like a castle, and we can choose one in here. And for memoir, we could put an icon with a person, or actually maybe a journal or a book. Something like this, add cover, change cover, and we'll look for a journal. So we can choose something like this one. And for self-development, we can add a person. Like this, add cover, change cover, and this one, maybe someone running, could be a good self-development picture. So now we basically have a gallery view of all our genres. And then we have a table view here, and we can actually rename this table view. So now we can go back to the main page, and we can see that our 2 databases are done now. And now what we're going to do is move these databases to the left-hand side, and then we're going to show linked views of these databases. So if we type enter and /column, we can make 2 columns on the page, and we'll be putting this one on the left-hand side and moving this over. So now we have this nice space on the right-hand side, and we're going to type /heading, heading 3, and we're going to show the books by genre. So the top part's going to be view by genre, and then enter, and then slash divider. So we like to use this format to make things look cleaner in Notion. We really like having heading plus the line under it. And inside here, we're going to type slash linked view. And basically you can get a linked view of your databases that you've created. So any changes you make inside here is going to be reflected in the databases, but the main data is coming from the databases. So this is kind of a safer way to display your information on the main sort of dashboard. So we're going to click genres, and we want to see it in gallery view. So now we see basically what we set up in this database, and we're going to hide the title by clicking the three dots here and hide database title. And we can move it a little bit over here again. And now we can add the linked view of the books. So if we now go here, slash heading 3, and we can add books or my books and type enter slash divider. And now we can put a linked view of the books database, linked view of database, and choose book. And this time we want to see gallery view as well. So we're going to choose that, and we're going to go to the three dots and hide database title. So now we see our books here that we set up in this database here. So now what we're going to do is link these two databases to each other so that we can display that inside of our genres. So to do that, we're going to open up this book, and we're going to add a property. So plus add a property, and let's go ahead and choose relation. And we're going to relate it to genres. So again, it's very easy to find the correct database, and we're going to show it on genres, and there's no limit to how many you can add. So we're just going to keep it like this, add relation. So now we can actually add genres in here. So in the case of The Hobbit, we can already tag this as fantasy. So now we see fantasy like this, and we can go ahead and add them for the others as well. So this one is a memoir, and this one is going to be the self-development. And we can display this by going to the three dots here and properties, and let's go ahead and display the genres. So now you can see that this is fantasy, this is memoir, and this is self-development. So now what we'd like to do is to be able to see how many books are in each category here. So to do that, we'll just open up, for example, fantasy. And now you can see that these are related, and we're going to go ahead and show this as minimal. So whenever we have a relation, we like to minimize the one where we don't necessarily want to see all of them that are tagged, but show it on the other one. So this is what we do. And then we can do plus add a property, and here we're going to be using a formula. So we're going to type formula, and we're going to call this number of books. And you can even change this to a book like this. And now let's go ahead and edit this formula. So this formula is also pretty straightforward. So all you need to do is first look for the books property. And this property is just going to show all the books that are related to this genre. So in this case, you can see The Hobbit. And then what you're going to do is add a dot and then do length. And this is basically going to count how many books there are inside here. And then we're going to add a styling. So just like this, all you would see is one number on the outside, and that doesn't really give us any information unless you hover it. So rather than that, we also like to style. So we're going to do style and then do plus. And here we're going to add books. So now it's going to say 1 books. And we can even put in parentheses like this. And if we want to take this further, we're going to add it and make it bold. So you can do a comma and then add other stylings. So this is going to be bold, and it's going to say 1 books. And you can even change the color. So if you read here, you can see all the options you can do here. and done. So now we see that there's one. So all of them should now say one inside here. But since we haven't set that up in the properties, we don't really see it. So we have to go to the three dots here, go to properties and show the number of books. So now we see that fantasy has one book, memoir has one book, and self-development has one book. So the next thing we have to do is now just to add database templates. And to add a database template, you go to this blue button here, and we're going to click this and do plus new template. And this is going to be called new genre. So this is going to get pulled up every time that you create a new genre inside. You can choose to have a set template for that. So this is just creating that template, and you can even add a placeholder icon here. So for example, we could put this one. And then what we're going to be doing is adding a link to view database of those books that are attached to this, but we only want to filter it by that genre. So we're going to type /heading, heading 3, and we're going to be calling this books, and then enter, and then /divider, and then underneath here we're going to do /linked view of databases, and we're going to choose the books database inside, and we're going to look at it in gallery view and click out. So now we see everything inside here. So ideally we want to only see this new genre. So that means that you need to filter it by clicking filter, and we're going to filter the genre. So we're going to go to genres, and you have to choose new genre, save for everyone. So as you can see, when we chose new genre, we don't see anything because nothing is tagged to new genre. And we can now hide the database title like this and go back. So now if we click into fantasy, we choose new genre, we're going to see the book that's associated, and we see it here, reading now. We can do the same inside memoir. We click new genre, and it should show the book for memoir, which is here. And then if we click self-development, new genre, it's going to do the same. So we see here like this. So now what we can do is actually set this as a default template so that every time you click and enter a new entry inside of this database, it's simply going to add that template automatically. So we can just do set as default for all views and genres. So just as an example, if we click plus new here, it's already loading the new genre template, but there's no books inside. So now what we're going to do is do sort of the same thing for the books, but this time we're going to actually add a sort of template inside so that it can guide you with your reading journaling and just keeping a summary of it and so on. So if we go to the blue button here, just like in genre, plus new template, and now we're going to call this new book, and we're going to add an icon that's going to match a book. And you can even do things like every time you add a book, if the date that you're going to start it is going to be today, you could even do the date when duplicated so that you don't have to enter every time. So those kinds of things can also be automated if you wish. And here we can do /heading 3. And let's say that you want to keep a summary here. So you can do summary divider. And then underneath the summary, maybe you want to keep track of your favorite quotes. You could do /heading 3 and then quotes. And this is really like a free space for like you to decide what you want to keep track of. So if it's quotes, if it's summaries, or even a reading journal, you can keep track of your reading journal here and just kind of write in notes as you go while you're reading it, and even sort of manually put the date inside here if you wish. So now we basically have a book template here, and we can go back. So if we decide to now apply this, you can see that it's going to load up those templates in here. And sometimes this takes a bit of time to load the template, but it should be here. We can already click them like this and like this. So now it's loaded. And if you want it to be automatic whenever you add a new book, you can just click the three dots here and set this as default and for all views for books. So now we basically have the database template inside. And the final thing we're going to be adding is just our favorite book and quote here, because as you can see, there's some empty space. So it can be a really nice thing to do just to add an image. So we're going to be adding it above the databases. And we'll just look for an image to add here, copy image address, and we'll just put the little prints, embed image, and underneath you could put, for example, /quote, and add your quote here. So favorite quote and author like this. So this is how we would approach making a book library and reading tracker. And as you can see, there's a lot of room for customization. So basically everything inside of here you can customize. For example, the summary quotes and reading journal. You can also customize all of these properties that we added. So these are already a lot of properties, but obviously you can add even more if you want to know like the publishing number, how many times you've read it, or anything you can add here as well, notes. And if you have Notion AI, you can even actually add like AI summary properties so that if you had added content inside here, you could just see it on the outside already summarized for you. So there's a lot you can do with this, but we think that this is a really good starting point if you're looking to keep a book library reading tracker. So if this went too fast, we'll obviously have the recording of this so you can also slow it down and build it step by step. And if we go back here, we just wanted to mention that if you want more features for your book library reading tracker without building it from scratch, we do have a premium version of our book library and reading journal Notion template. And currently we have a 40% discount code with Feb40 during checkout. And we wanted to just show you briefly this template. And this could also be a good way to see what can be possible with these kind of reading trackers in Notion. So we basically have a lot more features here, but a lot of the framework is quite similar. So here we have a reading now. We can see when to read and when to read again, like this, inside of our reading dashboard. So all the way at the top, we've kind of filtered them into different tabs. We also have reading lists. So you can have sort of keep track of how many books you've been reading and create reading challenges for yourself with a progress ring. And you can see your book lists and book club lists. So if you have a book club and you're slowly reading through them, this can be also really useful. And then we also have browse by genre, and you can see that all of these are built in for you already as well. So you can just click it open and see inside. So if we click open, you can see all the books inside like this. And then we also included an author database. So if you want to keep track of authors and their information, you can also do that. So if we go now to the quick links, you can see the author gallery. So we have author 1, author 2, author 3, author 4, and each author gets different sort of properties, countries, their birth and death, and anything you want to add about the author, as well as tag them to your books. And we also have daily reading journal here, so you can keep a log of your reading. And then we have favorite quotes database like this, so you can really see all of your quotes in one place and so on. So this is one of our favorite templates that we've ever created, so we highly encourage you to check it out. We will put the link also in the chat. So now we have a Q&A, and if you have any questions, feel free to type it now into the chat and we can get to them. So Let's see what questions we have here. So, how to set a reading goal, like set a number of books I plan to achieve in a quarter or a year. So, if you want to make a very simple reading goal, you could even just do that through checkboxes. And oftentimes we like to overcomplicate things, but it can be done quite easily. So, let's say that you wanted to add a reading goal tracker inside of this one. You could simply do something like reading goals and a divider, and you can turn this into heading 3 and slash checkbox, and you could even put read daily this week and then put the week and then check it off if you actually do it, for example. The other way to sort of track your reading is to, for example, just track it based on if you finished it. So if you see here that you can see in done, and you could filter it by this year and see exactly how many books you've read this year by creating another tab here. So that's another possibility. You could also make like a reading goal database and then link them together and track how many you've actually completed. But that would require a little bit more difficult formula to accomplish, but it's totally possible. Can I make different kinds of journals in the book? So if you wanted to make different kinds of journals in the book, that's very easy to do as well. So as we showed in the building together tutorial, we have this database template here, the new book. But instead, you could actually just duplicate this. And let's say that this is the one that you want to use as a sort of reading reflection. Then you could have different questions inside here, like how did I feel after reading the book? So in that way, you could add different journal templates inside and choose them based on how you feel. So if you open up the book and you wanted to choose a different reading journal, that could be done as well. Additionally, if you want, you can even add a third database, which would be your reading journals, and then link them to the book so you can keep track of your journal entries that way and keep different kinds of journals. So there's also a lot that's possible with that. So let's see the next question. What if I have multiple genres for one book? So when we created this reading journal and tracker, we allowed it to have no limit when you do a relation. So this is very important if you're new to relations. So here, if we click edit property, you can see that the limit says no limit. If you were to change this to one page, it would only allow you to choose one. But since this is no limit, you could technically add another genre. So let's say that we feel like The Hobbit is also a memoir, for example. Then you could see these two here like this, and then they would be displayed here. And you would see that 2 books belong to memoir, 1 book to fantasy. So that would be one way to do it. And actually, if you're looking for a way to do relation and you only want to add one limit, that's also really important to know how to achieve with that. How about if I want to read a book again? So if you want to read a book again, the best way we suggest is to use the status property to your advantage. So right now we have reading now, want to read, and done. So if you wanted, you could go to the 3 dots in the database, and then you could go to the properties here and look for the status. And as you see, we have want to read, reading now, paused and done. So another thing we could put in the to-do list here, the to-do type of status is want to read again, so that you can keep track that this is a book you've already read, but you want to read again. And the other thing we would suggest is to add an additional property here, which would be like a number property. And you could name this number of times read. So then you could keep a track of it. So if it was once and then you come back to it, you'll see that you've already read it once. Then you could kind of put the next number, like 2, and so on. So you can keep track of how many times you've read this book. And yeah, that should also help if you're trying to keep track of how many times you read. And you can even, once you have this number here, sort your books based on how many times you've read them and do all sorts of filters and sorts. So if we had put like 2 here, for example, you could go to filter and then go to number of times read, and you could put a value. So if we put 2, you can see that you've read this book 2 times already and see different kind of filter viewed. So this can be really useful as well. So we hope that answers your question. And let's see if there's any other questions. Feel free to ask if you have any questions. Great. So we can go to the next page. So thank you so much for everyone who attended today. And the link to the template we built today in the workshop is free here for a limited time. So be sure to check that out. And we'll leave that in the chat so you can grab that and kind of check how you did based on our workshop today. And we highly still recommend you to build it from scratch if you want to learn Notion, though, just so that you can see really like how it's built and all the components that go into a template. If you're interested in our book library reading journal Notion template, you can also find it in our store. So we do have that 40% discount with code FEB40 during checkout, so be sure to check that out. We also offer one-to-one coaching sessions, so be sure to check that out as well. We'll leave the link to that in the chat. And finally, if you have any questions or comments after this event is over, contact us by email at organizednotebook.info@gmail.com. And we really like receiving questions, and yeah, we are ready to help if you have any questions. So finally, thank you again for attending this event, and we hope that this was interesting for you all. And we hope to see you in the next event.